I first noticed him because everyone else didn't. While people rushed past, pretending not to see, he sat there on the same park bench, night after night, like he belonged to a different world entirely. Wet hair plastered to his forehead, hands stuffed into his coat pockets, eyes that somehow looked both tired and watchful. I had just finished my shift, my stomach growling as I carried a bag of cold takeout in one hand. I walked past him, slowed, then stopped. Something about the way he just was made me want to offer more than a passing glance. "You hungry?" I asked softly, holding out the bag. He looked up, startled. "You don't have to. I want to," I said, shrugging, trying to smile casually. There was a pause, the kind that stretches longer than it should. Then he reached out, took the food, and muttered a quiet thanks. "I'm Edward," I said, sitting on the edge of the bench, careful to leave space. He hesitated again, then muttered his name. "Alexander." And that was it. That small exchange, sharing soggy fries under the golden streetlight, felt like the first page of a story I hadn't realized I'd been waiting to read. We talked. A little at first. His words short, cautious. Mine too, until the silence between sentences stopped feeling awkward and started feeling alive. Nights bled into each other, little routines forming. Me bringing food, him sharing bits of his world, us laughing softly when the rain dripped down our jackets, our hands brushing a little too long to be random. I didn't know then that this quiet man on a cold park bench would become the one I couldn't stop thinking about. But even that first night, sitting there beneath the flickering street lamp, I felt it. The tug of something raw, something real. A few days later. Some nights I swear the city stops just for us. The cars blur past, the neon signs flicker like they're shyly winking, and all I can see is him, Alexander, sitting there like he's always been part of my life. We started small. I'd bring him sandwiches or coffee, and he'd tell me the names of books he'd read once, novels I'd never have picked up. Slowly the words grew heavier, more intimate. He told me about his regrets, mistakes made, things he wished he could undo. I told him mine too, things I'd buried under deadlines and quiet nights in a tiny apartment. One night, he laughed softly, a sound that made my chest ache. "You know," he said, eyes glinting in the dim light, "I think people forget how heavy freedom feels until it's taken away." I didn't understand fully, but I nodded anyway, wanting to be the one who made him lighter. We sat there talking until my legs went numb, leaning closer without really noticing, sharing warmth in a hoodie too small for both of us. That night, I felt like I was seeing him. Not just the quiet figure on the bench, but him, Alexander, whole and fragile. And I realized I wanted to see more. 3 weeks later. It was raining lightly, the kind that makes your hair cling to your neck and your coat smell like wet asphalt. I was shivering under my hoodie, teeth chattering, when Alexander pulled his coat tighter around himself. "You're freezing," he said, his voice low, almost vulnerable. I shrugged, trying to laugh it off. "I'll live." I'm tough. He didn't buy it. Without a word, he scooted closer on the bench, brushing our shoulders together. My heart started thumping like a drum I couldn't control. It wasn't just the cold. His hand hovered near mine, just inches away. And for a moment, I was sure I'd misread everything. Then his fingers brushed mine, lightly, uncertainly. My breath hitched, and he caught my gaze. Green eyes piercing through the drizzle. "You make me feel human again," he whispered. I froze. Not because of pity, but because of the raw intensity in his eyes. That wasn't needed. That was honesty. And something inside me cracked open. I leaned just a fraction closer, and he did too. The world shrank to the warmth between us, the soft rain, and the streetlight flickering above. His lips touched mine, briefly, hesitantly, as if testing the waters. I didn't pull back. Not yet. A week later, everything felt different. The bench, the rain, the cold. They all felt smaller, like the world had made space just for us. We were talking quietly, laughing at nothing, when our hands found each other naturally, fingers entwining like they'd been waiting for this moment all along. He shivered. So I moved closer, pressing my coat around both of us. He laughed softly, almost embarrassed, and my chest twisted. "You're ridiculous," he said, voice catching. "I like ridiculous," I murmured. The laughter faded, replaced by a silence that hummed with something unspoken. His hand cupped my cheek, thumb brushing my jawline, and I leaned into it without thinking. The kiss started slow, cautious, but then it deepened. Long, soft, hungry in a way that wasn't desperate but real. I could feel his heartbeat against mine, the warmth of his body seeping into mine. And for the first time, I didn't care about anything else. Not the rain, not the cold, not even the world outside the park. Just him. Just us. When we finally pulled back, breathless, I caught his smile. The one that made me forget everything else. And realized I was falling. Completely. Irrevocably. A few weeks later. I thought I knew him. I thought I understood the quiet pull of his eyes, the way he lingered beside me, how his laughter could soften the rough edges of my day. But tonight, he was gone. We'd argued. Just words at first. Sharp but small, the kind that gnaw at your chest later. I had stormed off, convinced he'd understand why I needed space. But when I circled back, the bench was empty. His coat wasn't draped over the metal armrest. His bag wasn't tucked beside him. His presence, the thing that had anchored me for weeks, was gone. Panic clamped around my chest. My legs carried me without thought, down slick sidewalks and through deserted alleys. Every shadow was him. Every whisper of the wind sounded like his voice calling my name. My palms were slick with sweat, and the bag of food I'd carried so carefully knocked against my hip, rattling the metal fence as I passed. Hours seemed to stretch endlessly. The city lights blurred, streaks of neon smeared by the rain. I stopped at the corner where the street met the park, and there, a black car, impossibly sleek, idling by the grand gates of the estate at the edge of town. My stomach dropped as I recognized the figure stepping inside. Alexander. Every detail was perfect. The way he lifted himself gracefully. The careful way his hands brushed against the seat as he entered the car. My throat tightened. I couldn't breathe. The gates swung open slowly, deliberately, and I could only watch. My grip on the takeout bag slipped. Fries scattered across the wet pavement. The cold bit at my fingers. My face. My heart. No. It can't be. I whispered, trembling. My chest ached with a weight I'd never felt before. Loss, confusion, and the raw sting of betrayal that hadn't even arrived yet. The next day. Morning came too quickly, and the world itself felt cruel, unforgiving. My phone buzzed incessantly, notifications piling up until my screen glared at me. Headlines. Heir Alexander Westwood returns after mysterious absence. I stared at the words, disbelief curling in my stomach like acid. My hands shook as I scrolled, reading every article, every snippet of gossip, every smug headline dripping with insinuation. He's, rich? The heir? The man I had fed, laughed with, kissed under flickering streetlights. He was living a life I could barely even imagine. I dropped onto the curb, rain-slicked pavement cold against my knees. My fingers dug into my hair, tugging lightly as my mind raced. Every memory flashed. Every smile. Every touch. every quiet moment under the golden streetlight. Was it all a lie? Was I just part of some fantasy he could discard as easily as a crumpled napkin? The world moved on, oblivious to the storm inside me. Cars honked, a dog barked somewhere, and the rain continued its relentless patter against the sidewalk. But I couldn't move. I couldn't think. The betrayal was a stone lodged in my chest, and I couldn't shake it. I had to see him. I had to know. Was any of it real? My stomach twisted with a mix of dread and longing, the ache growing with every passing minute. A few hours later. By the time I reached the gates of Westwood Estate, I wasn't walking. I was storming. Rain plastered my hair to my forehead, soaked my jacket, clinging like a second skin. My fists were clenched so tight I could feel the strain in my knuckles. Every step forward was a battle with the mix of rage, grief, and heartbreak thrumming through me. Inside, the study smelled faintly of polished wood and expensive leather. He was sitting there, impossibly calm, as if the world hadn't collapsed around me just moments ago. "Who are you?" My voice cracked, low and dangerous, trembling with fury. He looked up slowly, green eyes, piercing, soft, pleading. "The same man you kissed on that bench," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "No," I spat, stepping forward. That man didn't lie to me." He reached for me instinctively, but I recoiled. "Edward, I wasn't using you." I ran away, from a world built on lies and control. Then I stayed. Cause with you. I was free. That was real. You were real. I felt my chest twist painfully. Every memory, every touch, every laugh between us, it felt like it could be a lie, like I'd been a fool for believing in him. My mind screamed, with the injustice of it all. How could the man I loved, trusted, be hiding something so enormous? The storm outside mirrored the storm inside me. Rain beat against the windows, lightning illuminating the study in stark, blinding flashes. My heart pounded, my legs quivering from exhaustion and rage. I wanted to throw myself into his arms, to demand the truth, to hear him swear it was all real. But my fear, my hurt, my pride, it held me back. I stared at him, shaking, torn between everything I felt and everything I feared. And in that silence, I realized I might never trust him the same way again. The next morning. After storming out of his study that night, I thought I'd never want to see him again. My chest felt heavy with betrayal, my mind spinning with confusion. But Alexander didn't disappear. The next morning, there was a coffee cup at my door, steaming, with a note. "I'll wait for you, Edward. No rush. No games." My fingers trembled as I read it. I wanted to throw it away. Instead, I put it on the counter, untouched for the whole day. Then came small gestures over the weeks. A text. "I remembered your favorite sandwich." Lunch? A quiet knock at my apartment just to hand me a scarf because I was shivering in the rain. A carefully left book at my doorstep, one he knew I'd been eyeing for weeks. He never demanded forgiveness. He never barged into my life. Instead, he showed up, patient, persistent, present. And slowly, my walls began to soften. One evening, he invited me to the park bench. The same bench where it had all begun. He had laid a blanket, brewed coffee, and even brought a little takeout. My favorite noodles, the cheap kind we had laughed over the first night we met. "I know I hurt you," he said, voice quiet. "I can't undo it, but I want to show you who I really am. Not the heir, not the lies, just me." I stared at him. Green eyes, earnest, shimmering in the lamplight, wet hair sticking to his forehead from the drizzle. And something inside me, something I thought had broken forever, started to trust him again. Days turned into weeks. We talked about everything. Our childhood fears, regrets, and dreams we'd been too scared to say aloud. He listened. He remembered. He tried, every single day, to earn me back. And one night, under the flickering lamplight, our hands brushed, lingering, until he gently entwined our fingers. "I'll wait as long as you need," he whispered. And for the first time since the confrontation, I smiled, letting myself believe him. By the time 2 months had passed, we had a rhythm. I looked forward to every night we spent together. The warm coffee in the park, the quiet walks along the river, the small arguments that ended in laughter, the way he rested his head against my shoulder on cold nights. We explored the city together. He insisted on taking me to tiny hidden cafes I'd never noticed. We wandered through bookstores, trading books like secret treasures. Lingering over poetry he read aloud with that low, mesmerizing voice. Rainy nights became our own private adventures, huddled under a shared umbrella, laughing as puddles splashed around us. Every touch, every smile, every whispered word made it harder to remember the hurt. Slowly, I realized I wasn't just forgiving him. I was falling. Completely. And he was falling too, in every careful, patient, persistent way. One night, sitting on our bench beneath the streetlight, he leaned in, brushing his lips against mine slowly, asking, not demanding, tentative, honest. "I want all of it," he whispered. "Every day, every quiet night, every stupid, messy part of us. Do you want it too?" I nodded, heart hammering, and kissed him back. Not carefully, not cautiously. Full, soft, and all-consuming. Those 2 months, our laughter, our whispered secrets, our small adventures, cemented something neither wealth, scandal, nor betrayal could ever shake. A love that was ours alone, built slowly, intentionally, fully. 2 days later, the world had turned against me overnight. 1 minute, Alexander and I were just 2 people on a park bench. Next, I was the villain of every headline, every whispered conversation, every judgmental glance. The commoner who seduced the heir. I read it again, the words blazing like fire in my chest. My hands shook as I scrolled through endless articles, all of them dripping with venom. His family called me a gold digger. Calls from anonymous numbers threatened me, offering money to walk away quietly. "You can't fight the Westwoods," one of his father's men said, a smug smile on his lips. I looked him in the eye. "Watch me," I said, my voice steady even as my heart thumped like a war drum. Alexander didn't hesitate. That night, at a gala that shimmered with chandeliers and champagne, he found me. In the crowd, cameras flashed. People stared. The whispers turned into gasps. And then he kissed me. Right there, in front of the whole world. The crowd froze. Flashbulbs ignited like fireworks. Champagne glasses trembled, one toppling to the floor with a sharp crash. I could feel Alexander's hands on my face, his warmth and defiance fusing with my own racing heart. "Don't let them control us," he whispered, lips brushing mine again. "Not now." "Not ever," I gripped his waist, holding him close as the crowd erupted into stunned murmurs. In that moment, we weren't just lovers. We were a storm that refused to be tamed. A week later. The next week, the attacks became personal. His brother, jealous, cunning, relentless, decided to escalate. Forged photos, fake messages, stories claiming I'd manipulated Alexander for money. My name was dragged across every tabloid, every online forum, whispered about in cafes, offices, everywhere I went. I stormed into Alexander's office one night, chest tight, frustration spilling out. "We can't just sit here. They're trying to destroy us." He didn't flinch. Instead, he rose from his chair, green eyes blazing. "I know. That's why don't worry, I'll not let you do it alone. This is our fight, Edward. We face it together." I froze for a second. His words, so steady, so determined, cut through the panic in my chest. "Together?" I asked. Yes, he said. He grabbed a stack of files, pulling out emails, contracts, and phone records. We exposed the lies. Every forged message, every false accusation. They think they can manipulate me. I'll show them they can't touch either of us. For the next days, we worked side by side. I dug into the evidence. He confronted the brother. We strategized every step, every public statement, every countermeasure. The work was grueling, stressful, but it was our work, our united front. One evening, after we successfully presented proof to the press that exposed the brothers' deception, Alexander reached for my hand. "See?" he said, a soft smile breaking through the tension. "We're unstoppable when we fight together." I squeezed his hand back, the warmth and determination in his grip grounding me. "You're right," I murmured. "We're a team. Always." And in that moment, I realized it wasn't just my strength or his. It was ours. No scandal, no family betrayal could ever break what we had built together. A few weeks later, the threats escalated. One night, I was taken, dragged from my apartment into a van that smelled of leather and fear. My mind raced. This was meant to scare him, to make him surrender. But I refused to be a pawn. My fingers worked quickly, undoing locks, slipping my captor's grips with calculated moves I didn't even know I remembered learning. Bruises blossomed along my arms, but I kept going. By the time Alexander arrived, storming in, fury in his every step, I was waiting for him, bruised, bloodied, but grinning. "You didn't think I'd wait around to be rescued, did you?" I asked, voice hoarse but triumphant. His lips met mine immediately, fierce and burning. Hands clutched shoulders, hair, arms, as if the world had no right to separate us ever again. I thought I lost you," he whispered, trembling. "You never could," I said, pulling him closer. "Never." We stood there, the storm outside echoing the fire inside, bruised but unbroken, blood and rain mingling, but nothing in the world mattered except the fact that we had each other, and that no one, not family, society, or fortune, could take that away. The next day. The boardroom smelled of polished wood and cold authority, but tonight, it didn't feel oppressive. It felt like a battlefield we had already won. Papers and documents, emails, contracts, and financial records were stacked neatly in front of me, evidence of every lie, every scheme, every manipulation Alexander's family had tried to use against us. Reporters crowded the room, cameras flashing like lightning. Phones whirred, recording every movement, every word. The Westwood patriarch glared, lips tight, arms folded. His smirk had vanished, replaced with something closer to fear. Alexander stepped forward, his green eyes sharp, unwavering. "This is the truth," he said, holding the evidence for all to see. Every lie, every manipulation. And we refused to be controlled any longer. My chest was tight with adrenaline, pride, and disbelief. This was real. We were standing together, unshaken, against the entire world of high society that had tried to crush us. Then he turned to me. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining naturally, like this was always where we were meant to be. "I'd rather be poor and real with him than rich and empty without him," he said, voice loud, deliberate, filled with conviction. The crowd gasped. Flashbulbs exploded around us, reporters scribbling furiously. And then he leaned closer, closer than he had ever been, and kissed me. Slow, fierce, perfect. Every heartbeat between us synchronized, a rhythm of victory and love. My hands clutched his waist, holding him close as the cheers of the crowd became background music to our moment. Through the windows, the city skyline glittered, thousands of lights twinkling like they were celebrating with us. And then, in the distance, fireworks bloomed, painting the sky with color, reflecting in Alexander's eyes, and I felt it in my bones. We were unstoppable. Together. Free. Loved. No scandal, No family betrayal, no fortune could touch us now. We had taken control of our lives, and the love we had built, real, raw, unbreakable, was ours forever. A year later. A year later, the park was quiet, bathed in the soft gold of dawn. Mist curled around the benches and lampposts, dew clinging to the grass. The bench where it had all begun, where stolen conversations and tentative touches had led to a love I could never have imagined, was waiting. And he was there. Alexander. Tailored suit, crisp shirt, polished shoes, but somehow he still carried the same warmth I remembered. Beside him, a takeout bag, cheap and familiar, a tiny nod to the life we had once shared under flickering streetlights. I walked toward him, heart hammering, chest full. The city was waking up around us. The distant hum of traffic, the chirping of birds. But none of it mattered. Only him. Only us. "You kept it?" I asked, voice soft, almost a whisper, remembering the first night I had offered him food. He looked up, green eyes sparkling in the golden light, and smiled. "You gave me a reason to stay alive," he murmured, reaching for my hand. "Now let me give you the world." I slid onto the bench beside him. Our hands intertwined, fingers lacing naturally, perfectly. He leaned slightly into me, and I rested my head lightly on his shoulder. The warmth between us was quiet but powerful, a contrast to the chaos we had survived. We watched the sun rise, spilling gold over the skyline, lighting up the city in soft fire and promise. It felt infinite, safe, like finally coming home. No disguises, no secrets, just love, real, unshakable, ours. And I knew, in a way I hadn't before, that this, the laughter, the warmth, the quiet mornings beside him, was the life I had been waiting for, all along. The city stretched out before us, sprawling, alive, but all I could see was him and the future we would build together. And for the first time, I felt completely, utterly at peace. The end. Would you still love someone who lied to you, if that lie was the only way they could be free? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force, and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome